Hello, everyone, and welcome. Have you voted yet? There's, of course, an election coming up here soon in British Columbia, so we discuss a lot these days politics and how we, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, can best participate in the political process. Today, in the Gospel taken from Matthew 22, Jesus gets into this topic about how we, as his followers, should approach political entities, how we should participate in some ways in politics. Jesus, of course, doesn't tell us who to vote for, but he does give us some important, or two, I would say, important principles for how we should approach the political discussion. Jesus reveals these principles to us by escaping a trap, essentially. So the Pharisees and the Herodians come to Jesus in the gospel and try to trap him. They say, is it legal or should we pay taxes to Caesar or not? And this is a trap because it seems that regardless of how Jesus answers it, he's in trouble. If he says, yeah, we got to pay the tax to Caesar, then a lot of Jewish people would be upset because these taxes were a reminder of the oppression that they were under from the empire. It was a very sore point for them, and many of the Jewish people did not want to pay these taxes. If, however, Jesus says, do not pay the taxes, then the Pharisees and Herodians could get Jesus in trouble with the Roman government. Jesus escapes this trap in a very clever way. He asks the Pharisees and Herodians to show him a coin, and he says, whose image is on this coin? They tell him, of course, the image on the coin is that of Caesar. So Jesus says, okay, give what belongs to Caesar back to Caesar. In other words, these small pieces of metal, these coins, but give to God the things that are God. And in doing this, Jesus reminds the people of Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, where we are told that every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. So Jesus is saying, look, these coins are stamped with the image of Caesar, give them to him. They're not worth that much. But each and every human being is stamped with the image of God, so we must give ourselves to God. God is our primary focus. We belong to him entirely. So in doing this and escaping this trap, Jesus reminds the people who is in true power in the world. Who is the true boss or ruler of the world? Who we belong to? This taxation, of course, was a reminder or a real function of the oppression of the Roman Empire. By forcing the people to pay the taxes, the emperor was essentially saying to the people, look, this earth belongs to me, and you in some ways belong to me as well. But Jesus, in telling the people to give to God the things that are God, is reminding them that no, the emperor is not in charge of this world, but God is in charge of the world. We do not belong to the emperor, but we belong to God. So therefore, we are called to build up God's kingdom in whatever way we can. And of course, for Jesus' time, it was difficult for the people to participate in politics. They were living under a tyranny, of course. But for us, we have more an opportunity to participate in politics, but we're called always to use our political participation as a means to build up the kingdom of God. So because of this, no sort of party affiliation or even affiliation to a country should take over the fact that we're always ultimately trying to build up God's kingdom. We shouldn't be overly attached to parties or different political rulers. Jesus also, in this gospel, reminds the people of their dignity, of their value, and the fact that they have power. So this taxation, of course, was a form of oppression for the Jewish people. And because of this, their dignity was in some ways, or in many ways, robbed from them. They had no real sense of power. But Jesus, in reminding them of the story of Genesis, reminds them of their great dignity, that they have been created in God's own image. They have an immense source of dignity. And in addition to this, the story of Genesis tells us how each and every human being is called to be a steward in God's creation, to be a co-worker with God. So Jesus is reminding the people that even though they are oppressed, they can build up God's kingdom here and now. They can build up God's kingdom in their family and in their communities. We too are called to recognize this hopeful message. Our political situation is, of course, not perfect, but we too, in our families and our communities, can make decisions to build up God's kingdom. So Jesus in the gospel then today, of course, does not tell us who to vote for, but he tells us that we probably should vote, that we should participate in the political discussion, and do this following two principles. We need to always remember that we're called first and foremost to build up the kingdom of God, and all our voting is sort of a means to do this. And secondly, we are to do this with a great sense of hope, that even though we might not have total authority, it's not a perfect system, we do have power, we do have authority, and we do have great dignity because we were created in God's image and likeness. God bless you and take care.